We've done the best, now it's time for the worst player at your Premier League club this season. And if you disagree with us, let us know in the comments. What's the first club?
Oh, I tell you what, Theo, I hate doing these. I hate being negative, but we've got to do it, haven't we?
It's time to fix your club's transfer window.
Arsenal, it's got to be Fabio Vieira, Theo. Now, he cost 35 million euros from Porto, and he's had his chances this season,
yes.
Theo. He's come off the bench, and you need someone to come off the bench and make an impact. 1 goal, 2 assists, not good enough.
Dan, if I bought you for £35 million, I'd expect something from you, because this man hasn't given enough. Arsenal fans have quoted when he's on the pitch, he almost doesn't know what he needs to do. You sometimes question his decision making, his passes can be off. Does he really want to play for Arsenal Football Club? Now, some people have told me, Theo, you're a mug. It should be Rob Holding as the worst player. I am never. Rule number 1, I will never put an ex-Bolton player on this list.
Aston Villa 5 years ago.
No, you stop right there. Hit the like button. And if we don't get 10,000 likes, then I'm not going to do any more content. I'm stopping it for the season. It's me done with. Unless we hit the like 3, 2, 1. Oh, that is brilliant.
This man 5 years ago cost 135 million euros. Philippe Coutinho can't even get in the 11 now.
Also agreeing with you, it has to be Felipe Coutinho. This is one of the most expensive footballers to have ever kicked ball. You need something special if you're going to pay the wages. It's a waste.
And it's a bit sad, this one, because 5 or 6 years ago, I regarded Coutinho as one of the best players in the world. Bournemouth now, and I've gone for a player that I like. He's a tall lad, he's a bit menacing in the box, but he's only got 4 goals this season. Kiefer Moore. And the point is, Theo, he's missed 6 big chances, and I just expect more from a very good player.
Well, he doesn't always get as much game time. Is that a bit harsh on him?
You've got to earn your game time, Theo.
Yeah, and that goes to the same point on Jordan Zamora, my pick. Now, I had to take some advice from a few Bournemouth fans, and they reckon it's this lad. He cared at the start, but slowly more and more as he went on. The games, he cared less. He didn't want to get Bournemouth the win, and I just feel as if he has to be the worst player. He'd lost his place in the starting 11, and there's a clear reason why. Gary O'Neill doesn't think he's good enough.
Brentford now, and nobody's really had a bad season, so I had to speak to some Brentford fans, and this one sounds a little bit harsh, because this lad is a very good player. He's good with his feet, he's good with the shot, Josh Da Silva. Ooh. And the reason being, Theo, a guy with that much talent should be playing week in, week out, and he's not made that place his own yet.
Yeah, well, it's very difficult when you're going for Brentford for a worst player, because the way that club is run, they make it so everybody gets game time, everybody gives 110%, everybody who is in that squad is good enough. To pick a worst player, I had to go for the second choice goalkeeper. That is Thomas Strakosha. Now, since he's come on, he's only had 2 games, and in those 2 games, he's made a few mistakes, like the goal that Ben Rama scored against West Ham. Brentford fans thought he could have done a little bit better. Now, when you have one keeper that you're reliant on, if there is an injury, you'd have to bring on Strakosha and rely on him. Brentford fans never wanted that. They don't think he's good enough.
Brighton and Hove Albion, it's got to be Robert Sanchez, because he had a few bad games. He got dropped, he had a tantrum, and now he's on the bench for good, Theo, and Jason Steele has taken his place.
If Jason Steele has taken your space, then you have to be on this list. We completely agree. Sanchez was once nearly linked with a call-up for England, but of course then he decided to choose Spain. I don't think he's getting anywhere near that Spain team again, because quite frankly, he can't even get in the Brighton team. Ever since he fell out with De Zerbi, I think he held the situation wrong. To go crying and being upset about it. Nobody wants him at the club anymore. I think it's time he packs his bags and tries to find his form at a different club.
Big part of football, big part of life is your mentality. It's how you deal with adversity. Yeah. Everyone has a bad game, has a few bad games, you get dropped, you deal with it up here.
Yeah, the problem with Sanchez, people calling him some of the best Premier League goalkeepers out there, and then you get dropped by one manager that comes in, a bit of a shock. You've still got to handle it with class, and I think he could have done it a little bit better.
Chelsea now, and I'm going for a 24-year-old lad whose value has halved in the last 4 years. I'm talking about Christian Pulisic.
Okay.
And I tell you why, Theo, because I rate this player very, very highly. He's a respected USA international. He's a bit of a prima donna. And one thing that I hate in life and in football, when you've got that much talent and you don't try. And I look at this lad, Pulisic, and I don't think he's trying.
I nearly wrote down half the team as Chelsea for my worst player at the Premier League club, because they've had such a bad season. The likes of Aubameyang, even Ziyech goes into question. Mudryk, not good enough. And my pick, which is Mark Cucurella, because he had a big price tag when he came from Brighton. What was it, 60-ish million? He's not been worth anywhere near that. The guy can't even pass forward to his wingers. Chelsea fans really struggle in the away end, in the home end, wherever they are. Watching Marc Cucurella play for Chelsea is a completely different man from what Brighton had in their best games. He doesn't seem motivated there. He doesn't want to be there. Maybe it's time to either move him on, loan him out, or figure a way to, with a new manager, to figure out his best tactics, because right now it's really gone wrong.
Crystal Palace, I've gone for Jean-Philippe Mateta, Theo, who's a striker who's only got 2 goals all season. Now, he's only had 6 starts. He's getting a goal every 390 minutes. But you look at that team, Eze, Elise, Zaha, there's a lot of creative players around you. I think his returns should be better. I'm not sure he's good enough to be a Crystal Palace player.
And I've gone for another Palace forward, which is Edouard. He's fallen off.
Yeah, he has.
We've had seasons where he's scored so many goals, and I actually had to ask a few Palace fans, what's the best pick here? And they've gone with Edouard, and I agree with them, because I just, the fall off he's had this season, he's struggling to get back in there and get back to his best form, and whilst he is, I think he's one of the worst players in the team.
Everton, I've gone for a centre forward whose value has halved in the last 4 years, Theo. It is, of course, Neil Maupay, who's got 1 goal all season. His XG, I think, was about 5. He's missed 7 big chances. He's getting a goal every 1,133 minutes. As a striker, you've got one job, do it.
And Everton needed a goal scorer this season with DCL injured, and that's why I completely agree in my pick, which is also Neil Maupay.
Fulham now, and here's another team who's had a really good season. Really hard to pick someone. So I've gone for someone who's not had a bad season, Theo. I just expect more. He only got 4 goals and 1 assist.
Interesting.
Bobby de Cordova-Reid. Like I said, not a bad season. I just expect better.
I think that's fair enough, because I struggled with Fulham. If you actually look at their starting squad, even the bench, everyone's given something. Harry Wilson scored a few goals. Willian has been decent. Vinicius has scored 5 goals in 14 games. You can't rip any of these guys off, and I struggled. So I've just had to go with Harry Wilson. He's got 2 goals, 3 assists, and to be fair, he's done a job when he's come off the bench, but he's not starting. So therefore, he is one of the worst in the team. But it was one of the hardest picks, and that is all credit to Marco Silva, who's built a whole squad that wants to play and thrive under him.
Leeds United, I've gone for a left-back called Junior Firpo, Theo, who came from FC Barcelona for 15 million euros. And one of my Leeds mates said, well, he must have been the groundsman at FC Barcelona, because he's just had a really poor season.
It's got to be Patrick Bamford for me, Dad. He's not scored enough. Of course, I completely disagree with the stick that he got when he missed that big chance under Big Sam, but he's not been good since the injury. His knee injury kills a lot of players, and we've seen what was a Bamford that was free-flowing over lockdown, really caused problems. Defenders didn't like coming up against him, a poacher. He doesn't have that off-the-go pace anymore, and you can really see it in his game. He's not good enough to be a Premier League striker. That's why he's my worst player, because he's let them down.
Leicester City, I've gone for a centre-back called Kaglar Soyuncu, Theo. Now, he didn't play much this season. He's had 3 or 4 pretty good years at Leicester, and he's ended it with a really bad 5th year, which is a real shame. He just didn't make himself selectable.
I can't believe that you've put the worst player in a Premier League club, the player that's just bagged a move to Atletico Madrid. My Leicester City pick is bang on. Now, some people were suggesting Amati, and even Tielemans maybe had his mind on a transfer, but I've gone with Danny Ward. He even lost his goalkeeper position to Olsen throughout the season, and that is the definition of not being good enough.
Liverpool, I wrote to my Liverpool mate, and he said Virgil van Dijk, but I cannot do that, but I can do another centre-back.
Virgil van Dijk?
He actually said that genuinely.
That's crazy.
And he meant it, and he's a serious fan. I've gone for Joel Matip, Theo, another centre-back, and I'll tell you why. He's lost his place as a regular centre-back. 2 errors leading to a shot, an error leading to a goal. He's had 3 or 4 games when he was really good, but he was inconsistent. The next game, he'd be really poor.
I have had to throw this name in the net. Look, he lost his space in the team. He hasn't played too much, but when he has, he's not shown up and let them down in that Madrid game. It's Joe Gomez. Not good enough to be a Liverpool centre-back, and I do feel for him. The pressures of playing in that role with a midfield in front of you that was missing for half the season, and you play against some of the best teams in the world, and of course you're going to be led into mistakes because the pressure's on you. But he is the worst player at Liverpool Football Club.
Manchester City, I was going to go with nobody, but my City mate said you've got to mention Calvin Phillips, and I'll tell you why, Theo. He cost 49 million euros, so that is a very big price tag.
Yes.
He has actually been on the pitch 21 times in all competitions this season, and he's just not proven himself.
Well, I completely agree, Thogdad. It's actually a very easy pick because so much of the City team has been great. When given a chance, he hasn't really, and you've got to make your own luck. Calvin Phillips has had a big injury, and it's not really been his perfect season, but he's not fought Pep and convinced him, and being able to gain Pep's trust is what you need to succeed at Manchester City.
Yeah, Manchester United. I asked one of my United friends, who do I choose? And he said, do I even have to answer that? It's Harry Maguire. And it's sad this, because I've defended him for many years. He's been good for England at times, been good for United at times, but I'm afraid he's yesterday's news and he's no longer in the 11.
It's unfortunate because I I actually think for England, there's a real centre-back in him. I was in Seville when Sevilla beat them 3-0, and United fans look back at that game and just fully blame Maguire for not winning the Europa League. As much as it is a little bit ruthless on him with the fans, he hasn't helped his case with his poor performances consistently. So I agree with you, Thog Dad. For Manchester United, the worst player has to be Harry Maguire. Yeah, and I just want to mention, for a lot of these picks, we did want to go with players that have played at least a few games this season. Yeah. We didn't just want to go for a reserve player. There's no fun in that.
Newcastle United, and this is the youngest player on my list. It's Anthony Gordon, Theo, who came mid-season from Everton for €46 million. Now, that is a big price tag.
Anthony Gordon!
And the expectations were very high, and he started at Newcastle being in the 11, and after a while, he dropped out of it.
That is so harsh. You're not going to give him time. You didn't pick Mudryk for Chelsea, but you're jumping to the gun for Anthony Gordon.
Do you know what? If he was 22 years old and he'd come for $4 million, I probably wouldn't have. He came for a very big price tag.
Mudryk came for a little price.
The expectation would be he goes straight into the 11 and stays there.
I think I've gone with a better option. It's Ryan Fraser. He's really the worst. Come on. Ryan Fraser is actually the worst player. He's had 8 games, no goals this season. Every time he's played, he then in the second half of the season got injured. A lot of Newcastle fans haven't seen much of him, but he's not good enough.
Nottingham Forest, I've gone for a man who came from Newcastle in January. It's John Joe Shelvey, who I've liked over the last decade or so, Theo, but he just didn't do a job. And at the last 7 games of the season, he wasn't even on the bench.
Well, I do agree with you. I just can't believe you picked him. Nottingham Forest fans have said the same. He's given away a few penalties at harsh moments. He's been suspended. He's not been good enough for Forest next season. I think they do need to replace him. So we agree. But Forest, congratulations on survival, because that is massive, isn't it?
Southampton, I've got to go for Adam Armstrong, Theo. He's still only 26 years old. He's a centre forward who's not scoring goals. 2 goals, 1 assist. Surely you agree.
He's not played too much, though.
You've got to earn your right to be on the pitch, Theo.
My pick hasn't earned the right, and he continued to play on the pitch without scoring goals. This may shock you, but my worst player is Che Adams. I genuinely think his fall-off has been appalling, and is a big part of the reason why Southampton didn't score enough goals and didn't survive in the Premier League. In fact, they didn't even put up a fight. They were by far the worst, and it's because of drop-offs like him.
Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, it's got to be a Brazilian international who was at the World Cup. It is, of course, Richarlison, Theo. Now, the expectations were very high. I think he cost €58 million. 1 goal, 4 assists. Not good enough. He had to step up to the plate.
Dad, we're talking about the worst player in the team, and you said Richarlison.
In terms of expectations, Theo, Richarlison.
You're a mark. Dad, it was unfair to call him the worst player. Come on, we're talking the worst player. You've got to go Emerson Royale or Ben Davies. My personal pick is the Welshman. He's not good enough. They could build, Spurs could build around Richarlison next season. Let's say Kane goes to Real Madrid in that 3-9 role now. Richarlison comes in as the number 9. He's got Son on his left. He's got Kulusevski on his right. That is the new front 3. You're telling me he's the worst? It's a disgrace.
When you're going for worse, you look at expectation, you look at price tag, you look at all of that.
Look,
he's been on the pitch 27 times this season.
I look
He's
at price tag.
1
Dad,
goal, Theo.
People are going to laugh at me, but I look at price tag and think, you know what? He deserves that. There's still a real special player in Richarlison, but it's not been the right tactics, and no one's really motivated him and put him in the right style of play.
Motivate yourself, Theo.
No.
You're playing in the Premier League. West Ham United, and again, I'm looking at expectation, because this guy is a very good player. An Ivory Coast international, Maxwell Cornet, came for over €20 million from Burnley. No goals this season, no assists. He's missed a lot of the season. He hasn't started much. But again, Theo, you've got to force your way into the team. Not good enough.
Well, I was very close to picking Thomas Souček, and a lot of West Ham fans helped me to say that. They thought his fall-off from the previous seasons has just not been good enough. I nearly picked him, and in the last second, I also changed it to Maxwell Cornet, which is a bit of an unfair pick because he has been injured a large majority of the season.
Some of the season, Theo, but the rest of it, he's just not been good enough. And finally, Wolverhampton Wanderers, it's got to be Raul Jimenez. They said he was injured, but he went to the World Cup with Mexico. No goals this season. And XG, I think it was 2.6. Missed about 4 big chances. Not good enough. Will he ever play in the Premier League again?
I don't know. One player who has played almost every game for Wolves this season, but for me, has dropped a howler on many occasions. We've seen the Leeds game, even against Brighton, where they got battered by something like 6 goals. And some of the goals, you do question the goalkeeper. Jose Sarr. I put him down there. I mean, for anyone that's regularly playing for Wolves, you have to ask the question. Now, we could go through the forward line, including Hwang Chan, including Raul Jimenez. They both didn't score enough goals. But for me, Jose Sarr made too many errors, and they should be looking at potentially replacing him or someone to push the number 1 spot for Wolves next season. They need to stay up next year. They need some big signings. That is all 20 clubs picked for your worst player this season. Do you know what? We probably got it wrong, but it's fine. That's what the comment section's for. Smash the like button anyway. 10k likes, and we will do a Champions League final prediction. And let us know in the comments, if we got a howler, who's been your actual worst player? I'll see you down there. Thank you for watching. See you in a bit. Bye-bye.